Chainsaw Man chapter 146 dropped a major bombshell on us. It makes it clear things are not just about to get out of hand. They're about to get a lot messier than we could have ever imagined, because the long-awaited and much talked about overhyped Death Devil has been confirmed to be a woman like a lot of fans suspected, and now appears to be confirmed to be the final boss for the end of Chainsaw Man Part 2. However, with my initial thoughts out of the way, we're going to back things up a bit and we're going to take a closer look at the chapter itself, because as of right now, this is easily the most important chapter that we've had in Chainsaw Man since Denji first opened up that door and Makima saw what was behind it. Just as that moment was a moment of no return, this too feels like it's going to have the same weight applied to it once we get to the end of Chainsaw Man Part 2. So we open up the chapter with Fumi Yoshida apologizing to Mitaka for cutting off her arm right before she can turn her apartment into a weapon like she wanted to, and just as we start to see Yoshida bring down his sword on Mitaka, it cuts away, which is both the ultimate tease as well as something a bit alarming here, because based off what we've seen, Yoru has not taken over Mitaka's body yet, and you'd think given the situation that she would actually do so, which leads me to believe that either Yoshida isn't going to make it through this, or Yoru might end up with a new weapon the next time we jump back over to this scene, i.e. she turns Yoshida into a weapon. However, Fujimoto makes the bait and switch work very well, because on one hand, you're left wanting more from the scene that we just left, but on the other hand, Fujimoto makes the trade-off so worth it, because he reveals to us the identity of the devil that everyone had thought in the past was the Justice Devil, and gives us our first chunks of meat for the main plot of Chainsaw Man Part 2. The Church of Chainsaw Man and Fami, they've been using the Fire Devil to make contracts with people, and it's all for the purpose of killing the Death Devil, and Fami's plan is both cruel but also one that makes a lot of sense when you sit down and you think about it. Normally, when you think about a devil, you think about how, say, the fear of a cockroach or the fear of blood results in that particular devil being born, and in some cases you can associate their powers with that fear, like say Power, the blood fiend, was able to make blood weapons, or the Eternity Devil had hallways that stretched on for an eternity. However, we learn new bits of lore here, because the Fire Devil has a power that isn't necessarily associated with fire itself. Its power is actually scary, and thus it actually fits perfectly into Fami's plans. By using the Fire Devil to make multiple contracts, the power itself grows. Just as a fire grows as it consumes more material and it burns, the flames get hotter, so too does this power when the contracts are being used. By making contracts with thousands of people who are now turning into bootleg versions of the Chainsaw Man, and the conflict between the Church of Chainsaw Man versus public safety and various world government officials begins to grow, it results in the powering up of both Denji and Yoru in the process. The violence and war between these factions will in turn make Yoru stronger, because with each drop of blood that is shed and the bootleg Chainsaw Mans that are running around, it will slowly put fear into the hearts of people when it comes to Chainsaw Man and the War Devil, and that's absolutely huge, and that actually causes us to revisit a key plot point from Chainsaw Man Part 1. It's the undoing of the damage that Makima did to Chainsaw Man in Part 1, where she made people fall in love with Chainsaw Man, and all throughout Chainsaw Man Part 2, we saw Chainsaw Man merchandise and universe, from t-shirts to cinnamon buns and all types of things, and you see people celebrating Chainsaw Man like they were before, but on a different level. And because of how devil powers work, the more feared that a devil is, the stronger they become. Fami is trying to both power up Yoru and Denji in order to take out the Death Devil, and ironically it's something that Makima's reincarnation confirms to us, because Nayuta says not only does she know what Fami's doing, but she can sense the presence of the Death Devil, and it's bringing a big calamity with it. And it all goes back to the fact that the Death Devil, the Control Devil, the War Devil, and the Famine Devil are all sisters of the four horsewomen of the apocalypse. However, I think that this is where we have to take some time to look at the drawbacks to what Nayuta says Fami's plan is. She eventually wants to kill the Death Devil. Basically, she wants to kill death itself. It's something we've seen Yoshida joke about when he was in the aquarium with Denji and says, hey, I wonder if the Chainsaw Man can actually eat the Death Devil. That was clear foreshadowing for what's getting ready to happen. It shows an absence of a lack of understanding about the human experience by going this route. Death is as much of a part of the human journey as being born, getting married, and having kids. Each breath that we take, it brings us closer to death, and it's one of the oldest fears that mankind has. Just like darkness is one of mankind's oldest fears, and death and darkness basically go hand in hand together when you look at a lot of religious contexts and a lot of artistic pieces and literatures that go back hundreds of years. Killing the Death Devil and potentially using Chainsaw Man to do it, it erases the fear of death, and most importantly, the existence of death in the minds of people. Since we know things that are consumed by Chainsaw Man are blotted from the minds of humans, something that Makima tells us in part 1 when she says that things like the nuclear weapon devil and the Holocaust devil, the AIDS devil, they are all consumed by Chainsaw Man. Fami is making the mistake that Makima did, where Makima wanted to use Chainsaw Man's powers to get rid of the things that she deemed to be a bad thing for the human race in order to make the human experience better. What you see here is that both Fami and Makima, due to not being human, despite their human-like appearance, they failed to realize that the very actions that they're taking will strip away the crucial parts of humanity of the very people that they fix in their minds that they're trying to do everything to save. The main difference though is that just based off of how Fami's been talking about this Nostradamus prophecy, the coming of the Death Devil might very well result in mass casualty in terms of deaths that could change everything. So her reasons might be better and they might be the only option that she can see, but they still come with the same miscalculation that Makima had. However, the storytelling in this actually works out very well. Just because this moment has been paying off the long build up towards the reveal of the Death Devil, and this chapter gives us that ominous vibe that you get when you're playing story mode in a video game and you can tell you're getting close to the final boss, but based off of everything that you've heard, everything that you've seen, you're not sure if the characters that you're playing with have actually leveled up enough to survive the looming battle. Fami, in this scenario, she's going to be you playing the controller, and Denji and Yoru are going to be the characters that you're controlling with the controller. In this chapter, we also get the masterclass in storytelling, in particular character development, when we look at Yoshida and he's apologizing to Mitaka for what it is that he's about to do, which is a nod back to when he told her to stay away from Denji earlier on in Chainsaw Man Part 2. It's great characterization for Yoshida because we see that he genuinely looks like he does not enjoy the idea of having to kill Mitaka like he's being ordered to. It's a great way to show in a very subtle manner the writing elements of internal conflict and external conflict playing off of one another. Yoshida doesn't want to go through with killing Mitaka, and you can see it on his face. You can see it in how there are times where you can't clearly make out his eyes because of how he's drawn, but he's got no choice but to attack her because he's a skilled devil hunter. He's very good at what he does. Kishibe in part 1 praised him for his skill, saying that at times he forgot that Yoshida was even a high school student, and because of this he's been tasked with the job of killing Mitaka. That is what makes that pause before he appears to swing down his blade at Mitaka, and then the jump cut to the other scene where the fire devil is being explained. That's what makes it work so well, because it keeps us as readers invested, because it allows us to have our imaginations run wild for what's about to happen next. It's one of the beauties that comes with reading a long-term series that goes on weekly, bi-weekly, or whatever schedule Chainsaw Man decides to follow, because it gets the readers questioning and asking questions and conversating with one another, creating a sense of community to further build up anticipation for the next chapter. Now, my only complaint for what I otherwise think is a really good chapter is the fact that it does seem as if there would be more consequences for having a fake contract be entered into between humans and the Fire Devil. They thought they were entering into a contract with the Justice Devil, but it's really the Fire Devil. That feels like it will be something that has blowback in universe and could be something that dampens this plot twist that we're giving. Now, I will say this, there could be a loophole in all of this, something that we're not considering right now. I can't think of what that loophole might actually be. The only reason I'm not making too big of a deal out of this is that Chainsaw Man tends to have a tendency to subvert our expectations as readers when we least expect Fujimoto to do so. And one lesson I've learned reading ongoing manga is that it's best not to jump to conclusions on a hot take until we finish the arc and we see if things are going to be explained or expounded upon. However, that also brings up the bigger question of, if Fami was in the kitchen, she's cooking up all the stuff that we're seeing, then when is she going to pull out something morally foul the same way that Makima did? Because while there is some overlap in the why behind the actions that both of them have done, we haven't seen Fami twist that knife in the back yet like we saw with Makima. Makima broke down Denji systematically and cruelly in order to carry out her plan, and you think that Fami might be planning to do something similar with Yoru, especially when you look at the foreshadowing and the hints that we got in the earlier parts of Chainsaw Man Part 2, that Yoru as a devil might have been the weakest of the 4 horsewomen, but also she might have been bullied. There are times where she's telling Mitaka that she can't necessarily trust in anything that Fami's saying. Fami is a character we have to keep our eyes on, and I know I certainly am keeping my eyes on Fami, because I don't think that we are at a point where this is as far as we're going with her. Like, she's done some foul things, don't get me wrong. Basically having zombie Chainsaw Man running around killing people and stirring up fear, and having war being manufactured between the Church of Chainsaw Man, which is really a bunch of kids, and having the governments of the different countries going to war with all these different Chainsman out branches for the goal of making Yoru and Denji stronger, that's definitely foul. But wouldn't this also be making the Death Devil, the character who we are told is quote super duper duper strong, wouldn't that actually be making that devil stronger? Something does not sit right with Fami. It feels like there's something that we're missing with this character. However, I'm curious to know what you guys' thoughts in this chapter are. While you think that over, click here to watch these other Chainsman videos you see on the screen right now.